prices. On sports news tonight, Nigeria's D Tigers thrash reigning champions Tunisia 87-69 to record back-to-back wins and improve their chance for a quarter-final spot at the FIBA AfroBasket in Luanda, Angola.
And from the nation's capital, Nigeria deepens its engagement with the European Union in order to strengthen its cocoa value chain and position the country as a global player in agricultural supply chains.
We begin tonight with security matters. 2 months after the deadly attack in Yelewata, a border community between Benue and Nasarawa states, where several persons lost their lives, community leaders are again calling for permanent security bases and 100 resettlement homes. Addressing journalists in Makurdi, the Benue state capital, a community leader, Matthew Nyim, applauds Presidents Bola Tinubu, Governor Hyacinth Alia, and others for their support, but laments Monday's fresh attack that claimed 3 lives.
The atmosphere along the Makurdi-Lafia highway is calm, a sharp contrast to Monday's protest, where residents occupied the highway to condemn the killing of 3 persons by suspected headsmen, just 60 days after the massacre of several people in Yelewata. New troops have been deployed, restoring some calm to the community.
There was shooting around the town. The soldiers went swiftly, and today you can see them going out. This one that came, they say they are not here to sleep in the house. They are going out patrolling because they won't allow people to be killed before they start running after them. And that's why you can see them going out. We appreciate them. If the soldiers are doing like that, we will sleep with our 2 eyes closed.
Residents, however, believe more can be done to address insecurity in the area, in addition to the resettlement of displaced persons.
In light of the generous donation made by government officials, individuals and organizations, we hereby humbly appeal to the Benue State government to utilize these funds to support our community in the following ways. Build at least 100 units of 2-bedroom flats to resettle the community and provide shelter for the displaced families. We call for government to establish a mobile police station to enhance security in the community and prevent future attacks.
The governor, while receiving the women from Ipusu community who paid him a courtesy visit, speaks on the donation by the First Lady, Mrs. Oluremi Tinubu.
They also had mentioned about their desire to visit the First Lady, the mother of the nation, Senator Remi Tinubu, for the visit she made to the Benue State here and the donation she gave for the IDPs. It is quite a humongous donation. They are asking that I ensure to have them booked so that they need to go over there and thank her. She is a good mother, wonderful mother.
With the recent killings, security agencies are intensifying efforts to improve surveillance as the Benue-Nasarawa border remains porous.
And it's a sad story in Pogoripo, an ancient kingdom in the Itim community in Afikpo local government area of Ebonyi state, where at least 8 people have been killed in a flood disaster. The heavy rainfall, which submerged more than 800 farmlands and damaged 3,000 households, has left hundreds of people displaced.
In an ancient city in Itim community of Afikpo local government area in Ebonyi state, it's surrounded by the Enyoha Itim beach and is known as a farming hub, producing gari, groundnuts, palm oil and other crops in large quantities. Fishing is also a part of their livelihood, as most residents depend on both subsistence and commercial agriculture for survival. Tragedy strikes on July 20, 2025, when heavy rainfall causes flooding that kills at least 8 people, including a mother and her 4 children. The disaster damages over 800 farmlands and affects about 3,000 households, displacing many families. Some farmers in the riverine areas recall the incident, explaining that they were trying to evacuate their produce when the flood hit them. They also say that they had no prior knowledge of the Nigerian Meteorological Agency flood warning.
They filled the canoe, they are packing canoe with the goods before the thing took suck in, and we lost a child there. But the other one now, it was covering everywhere. The sand is already covered, the bank already covered, and even overflowing where the people, our people, fishermen, stayed.
Terribly, we were seriously affected. Everybody is crying. The fishermen, the farmers, we don't know what to do. So we really need the hands of government.
A community search and rescue team manages to save 4 children. 4 bodies are recovered and buried, while the search continues for more missing persons. Community leaders are calling for urgent help from the federal and state government and relief materials to support displaced families and address the damage caused by the flood.
This community is a community that has been feeding the Ebonyi state with gari, cassava, gari that's from cassava and the groundnut. But because of the flood this year, we lost all what we have.
We are telling government if there is any way of catapulting this information to every local angles, we will be in need of it so that even the oldest man, woman in the town will be aware of what is about to happen.
The government is advising people living in low-lying, flood-prone areas to move to safer locations as the rains continue.
The Zamfara State Substance Abuse Control and Prohibition of Human Trafficking Agency has handed over 11 persons suspected to be victims of human trafficking to the chairman of the Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON, in the state. The victims from Maru, Talata, Mafara, and Zurumi local government areas were earlier intercepted by the Department of State Services while on their way to Abuja for mining work and were later handed over to NAPTIP.
21 suspected victims of human trafficking intercepted by operatives of the Department of State Services, DSS, are handed over to the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, in Abuja. After thorough investigation, 11 of the victims who were reportedly being transported to Abuja for mining jobs are confirmed to be indigents of Zamfara State from Maru, Talata Mafara, and Zurumi local government areas.
Let me hand over the
victims were subsequently handed over by NAPTIP to the Zamfara State Substance Abuse Control and Prohibition of Human Trafficking Agency, which in turn released them to the chairman of the affected local government areas for onward unification with their families.
So they were apprehended and moved to NAPTIP, and NAPTIP called my agency because of our collaboration that we have 21 people from Zamfara State. We will continue sensitizing people, educating them, the risks behind all this issue of mining, leaving your state, going to other states.
Receiving the victims, the chairman of Zamfara State, ALGON, laments the deception that led to their trafficking, noting that Zamfara already has abundant mining resources and questions why they were being taken elsewhere for the same job.
To our surprise, our people used to leave their domain without even nothing of identification, which is the most serious and dangerous thing. You just carry yourself, or somebody carry you a far place down to east to south without any identification, and you go there for labor. It's never the best. This thing is very, very serious. Our government cannot tolerate that. We are doing much to ensure that our people are safe at anywhere. But when you go on your own, we don't think we can help you again.
As the victims are reunited with their families, the Zamfara State government is asking residents, especially in rural communities, to be wary of individuals offering promises of greener pastures outside the state, stressing that such offers often lead to exploitation and trafficking.
It's cheerful news as 11 Nigerian miners who were stranded in the Central African Republic have returned safely following the assistance of the federal government of Nigeria. They arrived at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, aboard an Askai Airlines flight facilitated by Nigeria's ambassador to the Central African Republic, Babagana Ahmed, and received by a federal government delegation led by NEMA's Director of Search and Rescue, Air Commodore Kenneth Oyong. The returning miners were processed through immigration and security screening before being formally received at the Hajj terminal. Speaking on behalf of the federal government, the Director General of NEMA, Zubaida Omar, affirmed President Tinubu's resolve to protecting Nigerians in distress anywhere in the world. The miners were abandoned by the employers in a remote location before seeking help from Nigeria's embassy in Bangui. Civil society organization Yaga Africa is advocating for the engagement of qualified and credible Nigerians as officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The executive director, Yaga Africa, Samson Otodo, who made this appeal at an advocacy meeting in Abuja, says the next set of appointees at the commission should be people that will be ready to do the right thing and not compromise.
Yaga Africa, along with members of other civil society organizations, are gathered here to discuss the credibility of the nation's electoral system. This meeting is holding ahead of the appointment of some officials for the election management body, the Independent National Electoral Commission, especially the chairman of the commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, whose tenure is expected to end soon. The constitutional and moral criteria in the appointment of the officials is central in the conversation here.
When the president sends his nomination, he's only read on the floor of the Senate, and that is it. Now, the particulars of those individuals are not put up in the public. And so what we are saying is those screening processes should be open, and the National Assembly should publish a public sort of notice on the names and the particulars of those people, and also officially invite people, citizens, to submit memorandum.
The first is that the president is required to appoint a chairman for the electoral management body in consultation with the Council of States, a chairman and national electoral commissioners in consultation with the Council of States before it goes to the National Assembly. Those of us in civil society, how many of us can, in all honesty, say that we are aware that the president consulted the Council of States in so many of the appointments that have been made? So the first is that we must know the category of appointments the president is required to make.
Other members call for the review of the criteria in the appointment of the chairman of the electoral body, emphasizing thorough public scrutiny.
Anybody being appointed to any of the structures of election management in this country has to have an iota of courage. It's not enough for qualification, conviction, or knowledge.
The civil society group is also calling on the media to participate in the selection process by canvassing for a transparent process in the appointment of the officials.
In part two, after the break, President Bola Tinubu arrives Dubai as part of his two-nation trip to Japan and Brazil. Please join us again. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our main stories. 2 months after the deadly attack in Yelewata community of Benue State, leaders call for the establishment of an army base in the area. Flood disaster claims 8 lives, damages about 3,000 households and 800 farmlands in the Itim community of Afikpo local government area of Ebonyi State. Election monitoring group Yaga Africa advocates for the engagement of qualified and credible Nigerians as officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. And U.S. President Donald Trump and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin meet in Alaska after warm greetings hold talks over ending the war in Ukraine. All appears set now for the 2025 by-elections to be conducted by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, in 16 federal constituencies, state constituencies, and senatorial districts across 12 states of the Federation. The states are Edo, Jigawa, Kaduna, Ogun, Oyo, Adamawa, Anambra, Kano, Kogi, Niger, Taraba, and Zamfara states. As part of security arrangements to ensure public safety and a smooth and orderly electoral process, the Kaduna State Police Command has announced restriction of movement in areas where state and National Assembly by-elections will be held on Saturday, August the 16th, 2025. A statement by the command's public relations officer, DSP Mansir Hassan, says the movement restriction will commence from 12 a.m. on Saturday in Sabongari, Zaria, Chikun, and Kajuru local government areas. The statement also advised the public to comply with the directive, as only personnel on essential duties and those with valid election duties will be exempted. In the same vein, the Edo State Police Command says it is fully ready for the Edo Central Senatorial District and Ovia Northeast Federal Constituency by-elections. The by-elections was taking place in 5 local government areas in Edo Central and 2 in Ovia Northeast Federal Constituency to replace the vacant seat formerly occupied by Governor Monday Okpeholo and his deputy Governor Dennis Idahosa.
Ahead of the tomorrow, August 16, 2025, by-election into the House of Representatives as well as that of the Senate in Edo State, the Edo State Command had deployed a total of 7,825 personnel drawn from the Zone 5 Police Headquarters, the Edo State Police Command, the Police Mobile Force, the Special Intervention Squad, as well as the Election Planning and Monitoring team from Force Headquarters, Abuja. The command wished to also inform the general public that it has imposed a restriction of movement from 12 midnight today, Friday, 15th August 2025 to 1800 hours, that is 6 p.m. on Saturday, 16th of August 2025. This measure is to prevent any form of interference, disruption, or breach of peace during the electoral process. However, the Commissioner of Police, CP Monday Bonika FGC, has appealed to members of the public to kindly adhere to this directive, noting that all those on essential duties with valid identification will be allowed passage. On this note, the command warns that any individual or group found violating the restriction order or engaging in any acts that is capable of disrupting the election or undermining the peace will be dealt with in accordance to the law. Thank you very much.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has complied with the Federal High Court's order, which directed that it includes the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, the SDP, in tomorrow's by-elections across 12 states in the country. A statement signed by the Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Mr. Sam Olumeko, says the last-minute decision to include the candidates of the SDP is in compliance with the court order. The Commission, however, vows to exercise its right to appeal the ruling. INEC confirmed it has accepted and published the SDP candidates' names online, assuring voters that the last-minute judgment will not disrupt the elections scheduled for Saturday, August the 16th. INEC initially excluded candidates of the SDP from the elections, claiming that the party had failed to submit a valid notice for conducting its primaries. And ahead of the 2027 presidential election, a group, Bring Back Our Good Luck, has apologized to former President Goodluck Jonathan over misconceptions and criticism of his administration, especially at the peak of the Boko Haram insurgency. Addressing a news conference in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, the group states that the administration of Goodluck Jonathan faced the worst of criticism and opposition due to his transparent leadership style, which was misconstrued. The group is therefore appealing to the former president to contest the 2027 presidential election, having experienced different administrations 10 years after his exit from the presidential villa.
Nigeria is an urgent need of a leader who understands that peace is more valuable than power. Unity more important than personal ambition, and compassion more enduring than politics. Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan has demonstrated all these qualities in the past, and we believe he can do it again. Our call to action on behalf of Bring Back Our Good Luck, I call on all well-meaning Nigerians from north to south, east to west, to join hands in urging Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan C.A.R. to once again answer this call of history so that he can rescue Nigeria.
President Bola Tinubu has arrived Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, for a stopover ahead of his two-nation trip to Japan and Brazil. The president left Abuja this morning around 11:15 a.m. and landed at Al Maktoum International Airport at 10 minutes past 10 p.m. Well, according to a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onunuga, the president will be proceeding to Japan. There, he will attend the 9th Tokyo International Conference on African Development in the city of Yokohama from August the 20th to the 22nd. And at the end of that conference, the president is to proceed to the Republic of Brazil on a 2-day state visit from Sunday, August the 24th to Monday, August the 25th. We head over to the nation's capital and its studios in Abuja, where Terry Kumi is standing by to bring us more stories on the news at 10. Over to you, Terry.
Well, thank you very much, Anne. Nigeria is deepening its engagement with the European Union in order to strengthen coordination in the cocoa value chain and position the country as a global player in agricultural supply chains. Vice President Kashim Shettima, who was represented by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Agri-Business, Kingsley Uzoma, said cocoa exports surged by more than 600% last year and reaffirmed the federal government's commitments to building resilience against climate change impacts while driving sustainable agricultural productivity and shared prosperity.
The banquet hall of the Presidential Villa, Abuja, is the venue for this strategic roundtable on the European Union Deforestation-Free Regulation Compliance, also known as UDER.
I'm just being told that this is a...
The dialogue, convened by the Office of the Vice President in partnership with EU representatives, cocoa-producing states, federal ministries and private sector stakeholders to fine-tune coordination, traceability and financing options. The Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, represented by a Deputy Director from the Ministry, explains that Nigeria is well placed to meet the EU deadline if a national traceability and sustainability system is adopted.
Discussions should be tailored around Nigeria's compliance so that the commodities exported from Nigeria to Europe will not face the ban that we are seeing ahead. Deforestation is a challenge, and I believe Nigeria has the capacity to overcome this challenge.
The Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment believes compliance with the EU regulation is both a challenge and an opportunity.
For Nigeria, Africa's fourth largest cocoa exporter, it's both a formidable challenge
and a transformative opportunity. With the EU accounting for over 60% of our cocoa exports, compliance is not optional. It is an economic, environmental, and developmental imperative. And importantly, we have to support our domestic farmers and investors who are in this space.
The senior special assistant to the president on agribusiness says cocoa exports surged by more than 600% last year, making it a strategic driver of the green economy.
According to the National Bureau of Statistics, cocoa exports in Nigeria experienced a 606% increase in the last quarter of 2024. Nigeria export of cocoa rose from 171 billion naira in the last quarter of 2023 to 1.2 trillion in the last quarter of 2020. This remarkable growth reflects not only the demand but the resilience and potential of Nigeria's agricultural sector, especially the cocoa sector.
With the December 2025 EU deadline fast approaching, the consensus from the roundtable is that Nigeria must accelerate traceability, sustainability, and policy alignment to remain a global cocoa powerhouse while protecting its forests.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria's official headline inflation matches FDC's forecast, slows for the fourth consecutive month to 21.88% despite increase. That's in business news. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. The Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Mohammed Ali Pate, is reaffirming the commitment of the federal government to building a strong primary health care system, ensuring that essential vaccines reach every Nigerian child. Speaking during a meeting with Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, and its partners in Abuja, Professor Pate noted that despite challenges, significant progress has been made with the introduction of malaria and HPV vaccines in partnership with global health stakeholders. Professor Pate expressed deep appreciation to Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, for its continued support to Nigeria, especially in sustaining immunization efforts across states and local governments. Highlighting Gavi's latest funding milestone, Professor Pate applauded the successful replenishment effort that raised $9 billion for Gavi's 6.0 global vaccine support.
Agenda here, I think, the base has been built, but it needs to be sustained and it needs to be resourced over time, technically, financially. On the government side, we've tried our best to continue to prioritize these issues, and that remains. And so in that context, your successful attempt at replenishment for Gavi 6.0 in the context when it was done, the global context where there are so many other competing priorities, so many other shifts, the fact that you were able to raise 9 billion, I think says a lot as to the confidence of the world on the agenda that you have tried to do and what you have done in the past. So I know that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu himself added his voice, and that made a huge difference.
As you know, we had a target of over $11 billion for our replenishment, which is funding that would have been the total cost of our Gavi 6.0 strategy. We were able to secure $9 billion, which was really a tremendous achievement, and we're very happy with that outcome. It was not the full cost of the Gavi 6.0 strategy, however. And as such, following the replenishment, the board convened a meeting to recalibrate the strategy. And I wanted to ensure that you had full visibility into what some of those recalibration discussions entailed.
A former Sokoto State Governor, Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, says his recent invitation by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is an attempt to intimidate him into abandoning his role in a political coalition preparing to challenge the ruling All Progressives Congress in the 2027 general elections. The former governor, who was also a Speaker of the House of Representatives, stated this while addressing a large crowd of supporters who turned out to welcome him back to Sokoto following his release by the anti-graft agency.
This is another homecoming for a former governor of Sokoto State, Aminu Tambuwal, who's returning to the state after being detained by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission over allegations of money laundering. Escorting the former governor to his residence in Sokoto metropolis, a journey of about 15 minutes lasted over 3 hours due to the number of supporters. At his residence, the embattled former governor informs the cheering crowd that the EFCC invitation was politically motivated. He criticized the economic policies of President Bola Tinubu, describing them as harsh.
From being and remaining on the course that I believe is for the good of this country. And this is not the first time in my own case. How did I become the Speaker of the House of Representatives? I was even tear-gassed as Speaker of this country. All in our efforts to make sure that the right thing is done. The Vice President had said it before, a few weeks ago. And when President Jonathan wanted to move him, I stood my ground. I remain that person that believes in democracy, rule of law, and good governance. And no one, no agency can intimidate me to abandon that course.
The former governor commends the professionalism of the EFCC personnel during his time with them, noting that he is not opposed to political leaders being called to account. He, however, frowns at what he termed the use of anti-graft agencies as a political tool.
And I'm not doing it just for myself. I believe that what is going on in this country is not right. And that is how I left APC in 2018, August, even as a sitting governor from Northwest, where President Muhammadu Buhari of Blessed Memory was from. If I had wanted to remain in APC to seek for second term, I could have done so. But I left.
Although the anti-graft agency is yet to file formal charges against the former governor, he believes he's a leading figure in the opposition coalition as he expressed confidence that the group is well prepared to unseat the APC in the 2027 polls.
And it's a wrap from the nation's capital. The rest of the news continues in Lagos with Anne.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Terry. The implementation of Youth Cred, a national credit scheme for National Youth Service Corps members, is continuing as the Minister of Youth Employment Development, Ayodele Olawande, alongside senior officials from the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation, took the campaign to the NYSC orientation camp right here in Lagos. Well, during that event, the minister reaffirmed the federal government's unwavering commitment to equipping Nigerian youths and the resources and funding needed to hone their skills and achieve self-sufficiency.
After the introduction of Youth Cred to National Youth Corps members in Abuja, a scheme that offers Corps members single-digit interest loans ranging from 50,000 to 200,000 naira, is the turn of Lagos.
And this is the federal government that loves you. We put it to you, and we are open for you.
The event provides a platform for the federal government's team and its implementing partner, Credit Corps, to enlighten Corps members about the credit scheme and requirements for getting it.
As you learn your courses in NYSC, that enterprise is always had in your mind you want to start, or even as you're starting your life, they're going to post you to different parts of Lagos, some rural areas, and you want to get basic furniture, you want to get a piece of electronic, or you want to get on the internet for those who are not already on the internet, who want to get a device, a laptop, just anything to settle in and make your life better. That is what Credit Corps is here for. As long as you are a youth corper, you are eligible for this program. And that is the commitment that the president has made. Go to the youthcred.com, the website, register with your call-up number, give us your information, and you'll see how you can get access to it.
While the scheme is tailored for youth empowerment, the initial focus is on NYSC members. The Minister of Youth Development underscores the importance of seizing this opportunity.
We don't want you to lose your dream because of lack of token, because of lack of fund. That is why we are bringing this youth credit to you. Youth credit will give you the push needed
to start your business.
In another part of the event, the NYSC Lagos State Coordinator explains how Youth Cred aligns with the cause objectives of fostering self-reliance and entrepreneurship.
We have always encouraged them during this skill acquisition and entrepreneurship development to learn not just one skill, but at least two, because the world is going to skills now. And we expect that every youth out there from Lagos State, by the time you are done with the 1 year service, you should be able to stand on your own. You should be able to be not only an employer of labor, but also a job creator.
Youth Cred isn't just about access to credit. It's about igniting a generation's potential to build a brighter and more self-sufficient future.
Let's now take a look at Nigeria's headline inflation rate. To bring us stories on that, Dominic Iwewu is standing by.
Thank you, and welcome to Business News. In line with forecasts made earlier this week by economic advisory firm Financial Derivatives Company, Nigeria's official headline inflation rate dropped further to 21.88% in July. The latest report released today by the National Bureau of Statistics represents the fourth consecutive month decline in inflation, which is lower than the 22.22% drop recorded in June. A brief analysis of the NBS report explains that the further easing in the headline CPI was driven by a high base effect, improved stability in energy prices, as well as the commencement of the food harvest season. However, the NBS data shows that the food and rural sub-index were higher last month, due higher cost of food items, while the core and urban sub-index dropped further last month. The Corporate Affairs Commission, CAC, says it has removed 247 companies from its database for operating with false registered certificate numbers. In a disclosure released today through its official X account, the CAC explained that the affected entities were never duly registered as limited liability companies. It stated that the RC numbers allegedly attributed to them were not assigned to any of the companies or to any entity at all. The CAC stressed that the dealings with these entities would not enjoy the protection of the law since they do not have legal corporate status. The National Insurance Commission, NICOM, has given insurance and reinsurance companies till July next year to comply with the new minimum capital requirements. In a document released today and signed by NICOM's Deputy Commissioner Technical, Mr. Usman Jankara, the insurance regulatory body mentioned that any insurer that failed to meet the prescribed MCR within the stipulated period would be liquidated, merged, or any other regulatory resolution deemed appropriate by the Commission would be considered. NIIRA 2025, which was recently assented to by President Bola Tinubu, introduced a higher MCR of 10 billion naira, 15 billion naira, 25 billion naira, and 35 billion naira for life, non-life, composite, and reinsurance companies accordingly. Nigeria's stock market extended the negative close recorded in the last two trading sessions into the close of Friday's trading session as investors extended profit-taking on some equities. Inijo Mekwa tells us more.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. So we see for the third straight session, a negative close at the NGX, and it's led by profit-taking on insurance stocks. Investors are really busy taking some of those profit that they had gathered on of those stocks. So we see from Universal Insurance and ICO, they led the way today. But Mutual Benefit was still able to attract some cherry picking in the midst of it all. So we see a green one for Mutual Benefit. Now, let's look at banking. Banking has recovered. Well, it seems attention is now shifting back to banking. I wonder. Mostly Access, Zenith, and GTCO, the big guys. So we see it in the green. However, consumer goods is in the red. Profit taking is also hitting there. Also, oil and gas is still in the red. Not so much, 0.05%, mostly because O&O lost 25 kobo at the close of trade. So we leave the weekend with a loss. The market lost 425 billion, and that's brought us down to 91.5 trillion naira at the close of trade. And we're going to have to leave the bear on the floor of the NGX for the weekend.
Thank you, Ini. And it's a mixed close for major global markets as attention turns to the meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russia's President Vladimir Putin in Alaska, as well as Japan's impressive Q2 GDP data. Let's see the numbers. And that's it on Business News. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Thank you, Dominic. Away from business and outside our shores, U.S. President Donald Trump and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin are holding high-stake talks on ending the war in Ukraine, and that's happening in Alaska after exchanging pleasantries at the tarmac. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and Foreign Policy Advisor Yuri Ushakov are all with the leaders at the ongoing meeting. Here's Simon Puse with more international news and around the world in 5 from our London studio.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US and Russian presidents are meeting at a highly anticipated summit in Alaska, the first time they've had in-person talks in 6 years. Donald Trump, seen here leaving earlier on Air Force One, and Vladimir Putin started their face-to-face discussions, joined only by their translators. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is notably excluded from the talks and has warned that decisions made in his absence will be meaningless. Meanwhile, the war continues. Here, CCTV capturing the moment a car was hit by a Ukrainian drone in the Russian city of Belgorod. The governor said 3 people were injured in the strike. Video showed the moment the passengers left the vehicle before it caught fire. The governor said that as a result of recent attacks on Belgorod, a Russian region on the border with Ukraine, all public spaces and events in town would be cancelled until the end of the week. Flash flooding has killed at least 224 people in India and Pakistan over the last 24 hours. Dozens more are missing after torrential rains struck 2 mountainous districts in the neighbouring countries. Some 1,600 people have been brought to safety in India-controlled Kashmir. At least 60 people were killed in the remote Himalayan village of Chositi in the Jammu and Kashmir region on Friday. More than 80 others have been reported missing. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, at least 164 people have died, while rescuers evacuated 1,300 stranded tourists. Aid agencies are warning of starvation in war-torn Myanmar's Rakhine state, with the World Food Programme making an urgent appeal for more donations to avoid a full-blown disaster. The agency has been trying to feed the rapidly rising number of displaced people in the state, including the 140,000 Rohingya Muslims who have been living in camps since they fled their homes during communal fighting in 2012.
WFP notes that in central Rakhine, the number of families not able to afford to meet the basic needs has reached 57%. That's up from 33% in December of last year. Despite dwindling resources, the World Food Programme is working to resume limited life-saving support in the worst-hit areas. WFP requires $30 million to assist 270,000 people in Rakhine State for the next 6 months.
Global talks to develop a landmark treaty to end plastic pollution have once again failed. There remained a split between a group of around 100 nations calling for curbs on production of plastic and oil states pushing for a focus on recycling. Speaking in the early hours, Cuban delegates said that countries had missed a historic opportunity, but we have to keep going. The talks were convened in 2022 in response to mounting scientific evidence of the risks of plastic pollution to human health and the environment.
The transitional government informs the national public of the arrest of a group of fringe elements.
Mali's military rulers say they have arrested a French national on suspicion of spying for his country in an attempt to destabilize the nation. In a statement, the junta alleged that Yann Vezelier was working on behalf of the French intelligence service. Mr. Vezelier is yet to comment on the accusation. His picture was also broadcast alongside those of a number of army generals arrested recently for allegedly planning to overthrow the military government. South Africa's army chief has been criticised after he reportedly pledged military and political support to Iran during a recent visit to the country. Members of South Africa's governing coalition have accused General Rudzani Mapwanya of reckless grandstanding, while President Cyril Ramaphosa confirmed he would meet the general to discuss his ill-advised trip. And King Charles and Queen Camilla have led a 2-minute silence at a service in Staffordshire to commemorate 80 years since VJ Day. Victory over Japan Day is marked each year on the 15th of August, the date in 1945 when Japan surrendered to Allied forces and World War II officially ended. The monarch paid tribute to those who fought and died in Asia and the Pacific, saying they will never be forgotten. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Nigeria's quest for a second FIBA Afrobasket crown remained unscratched. Ferocious D Tigers put in another masterful display to thrash reigning champions Tunisia 87-66 to record their second successive victory in Luanda, Angola. NBA Josh Okogie lit the arena up and helped Nigeria's quarterfinal chance with a 33-point display. Okogie scored from 12 out of 19 attempts, and he perfected all his 6 free throws. Nigeria will take on Cameroon in their final group game on Sunday, while Tunisia will face Madagascar. And 2 missed calls by the video assistant referee were the highlight of an uninspired 0-0 draw between South Africa and Niger to close out today's action from the African Nations Championship, that's the CHAN, at the Mandela National Stadium in Kampala, Uganda. It was a missed opportunity for South Africa to move top of Group C and assert themselves for a place in the quarterfinal. Earlier, Algeria struck late through Sofiane Bayadse to end a 1-1 draw with Guinea in a tense Group C clash at the Nelson Mandela National Stadium in Kampala. And Liverpool struck twice in the final minute through Federico Chiesa and Mohamed Salah to overcome a battling Bournemouth 4-2 in a thrilling start to the Premier League season. Antoine Semenyo looked to have rescued a point for the Cherries by scoring twice after he had reported an incident of racial abuse from a fan to cancel out Hugo Ekitike and Cody Gakpo's strike for the defending champions. But on an emotive night, as Anfield remembered Diogo Jota, Chiesa was the unlikely hero as the injury-hit Italian fired the home side back in front before Salah rounded off the scoring. And that sports is back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. 2 months after the deadly attack in Yelewata community of Benue State, leaders have called for the establishment of an army base in the area. And that's the news at 10 for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwawado. Have a wonderful weekend. Good night.